I'm going to show you today that there's a way to go about chasing your dream and a way not to. And it turns on the idea of your potential versus your track record. When is it okay to be talking a big game and selling yourself based on your potential? And when do you need to give that up and start looking at your track record? People's willingness to give a man a chance fades over time. When you're starting out, they just want to see a spark of something: initiative, intelligence, creativity, responsibility, accountability, discipline. By your mid-30s and especially into your mid-40s, however, people are much more interested in your track record. What have you achieved with all those chances you were given? In your first interview, they'll be trying to get a sense of whether you'll show up on time, take feedback, learn from your mistakes, just as much as they'll want to know if you can do the job and do it well. In your 40s and 50s, they want to know, what hardships have you overcome? What character have you demonstrated? Have you stuck it out when the going got tough, or did you just bounce from one easy-seeming option to the next? Did you know what you were doing as well, of course? And why is this important? Well, you'd be surprised at how many men just don't get it, and with major consequences. I'll deal with the older guys in a minute, but first let's address the young guys who are starting out. And to do that, I want to show you a video. Watch this.
I'll give you $100 a day to do nothing. Just stand in the square. Will you do it? Mike had just graduated and was brought to the square. The man points to a box on the ground and tells him. He told him he'd get $300 if he stood here until 5 p.m. Mike didn't believe it. The man turned to ask someone else. Mike stopped him in his tracks. He's got nothing better to do now. He came to the box and hesitantly stepped in. The man smiled and walked away, leaving him alone in the square in the sun. After a long time, it was 5 p.m. The man really showed up on time, and he did give him $300. Mike was overjoyed. The man said he was very happy with him. The man decided to hire him to stand here every day for $1,000 a day. Mike was happy to accept. The next day, he changed into a professional outfit. He came to stand in the circle on time. His friends dragged him to a skateboarding party. Mike insisted on standing and turned them down. No one's watching you. Just be back by 5 p.m. But Mike was adamant about keeping his word. He would never leave his post without permission. They left on their skate.
Now I know that the video is meant to show you how getting a job restricts you. It's meant to encourage you to break free and live your dream. I'm all for that. After all, it's how I lived my life. And because it's how I lived my life, I know that there's a right way and a wrong way to go about it. Here's the thing. Here's why it can be a problem. And by the way, if I could have my life over again, knowing what I know now, having gone through what I've been through, I would take that job. There are layers to this, so stay with me. What comes up next in the minds of young men when they hear this is that they, unlike everybody else, are the secret genius who will one day emerge as the next Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. Guys, I hope that's you. But believe me, if it's you, then it's not going to be the 999 guys around you. And if it's one of them, it's not going to be you. If I was you, I'd bet on it being one of them, and act accordingly. That doesn't mean don't try. It means keep your feet on the ground while you try. And here's exactly what that means. Because as I mentioned in my previous video, those Steves and Elons are already on the path. They're not trying to get on the path, they're just on it. If you're one of them, you'll know, because you'll just know. You'll also know that it's not an easy path, but it is an inevitable one. Those are the people who have biographies written about them. Then we read their biographies and think if we could just do this or that thing that they did, we can reach the same heights. That, my friends, is often, not always, but often, a misguided notion. And if you get it wrong, as I said, there can be major consequences. You see, if you don't make it, then when you get into your 40s, life, in the form of other people, is a lot less interested in your ideas and their potential and much more interested in your track record. And here's what happens to men who don't have a track record. They become, at best, hopeless dreamers, or worse, swindlers. And worst of all, downright fraudsters and hucksters. Let me explain why. Let's say you start out making big promises so that you can get someone to buy into your idea and raise a round of funding. Now, let's say that idea doesn't work out, and you're convinced that you're the next Elon. What do? You go again. And you should. After all, 9 out of 10 businesses fail, right? Use other people's money. Isn't that what they teach in entrepreneur school? I know, I've been there. I've done that. Only problem is, I was one of those you never hear about, the ones who don't make a billion-dollar exit. They don't often tell their stories, do they? Why? Because they're ashamed, and so they slink off into the shadows. But let's say you've been watching the videos of one of those 6-figure exiters or 7-figure exiters, and you're convinced that you're next. And if you just stay on track, you'll get there. Now let's say you fail again and again, or maybe even worse, you have an early success and you become cocky and arrogant and you go and raise a huge round for your next venture. Then let's say that one fails, but undeterred, you go again. You find a new idea, a new funding target, and you raise yet another round. This is called failing forward. You probably know one or two men like this. There's the one who dresses half his age and always has a new young woman on his arm. He's always got a new scheme going, and he makes excuses for the fact that he still lives in, well, come to think of it, nobody actually knows where he lives. Nobody has ever actually visited that place. Or there's the guy who plays the same game but lives at the other extreme. He dresses in top-end fashion and lives a grand, flashy lifestyle with a glam wife. Or, as with the previous guy, always a new glam girlfriend. This guy appears to have all the shiny objects to suggest he's making it. But you also struggle to put your finger on what he does. And if anybody had to dig, they'd discover that he's been spectacularly successful at one thing: failing forward. Failing forward means he's done many things, few of which have worked out. But what he's done following each failure is he's found the next person he can talk a big game to. Each time a bigger game. And by doing that, he's landed himself an even bigger job or even more funding for his next venture. In other words, he's failed to build a track record and he's managed to hide that and to sell himself instead on his potential. Let me tell you where these guys end up. Their stories get so big that eventually there's nowhere left for them to hide. Their false promises and empty track record gets exposed and they end up in jail or dead. Seriously, here are some names you can Google. Bernie Madoff, who ran one of the biggest ever Ponzi schemes. Brett Kibble, a South African mining magnate whose empire turned out to be a house of cards and who hired somebody to kill him so he could escape the shame and leave his family a life insurance payout. He failed forward right into his grave. Fictional versions of this kind of guy include Jay Gatsby, the protagonist in The Great Gatsby, Frank Underwood in House of Cards, and Thomas Crown in The Thomas Crown Affair. You can look all of those up. Younger versions in real life who are still alive but have all been sentenced to jail time are the likes of Jordan Belfort, also known as the Wolf of Wall Street, Simon Leviev, the Tindler swindler, Billy McFarland, the Fire Festival guy, and crypto bro Sam Bankman-Fried, who's still in prison. Maybe they're lucky they got caught young. They still have time to redeem themselves. So now you know why I'm warning you against becoming one of those guys. And the way to make sure you don't end up like that is to do two things. One, as I've said before, always pay your rent through honest graft and not through borrowed money. And two, make sure you build a real honest and true track record. If you can't do something, own it and own up to it. Don't pretend. Stop what you're doing and start again, at the bottom if you have to. You'll soon recover and you won't have anything to be ashamed of. I know what I'm talking about because I've worked with many of those guys. They come to me having had glory in their younger years, but now they're floundering. The first thing I tell them is to take on this motto: big deals are vanity, cash flow is sanity. In other words, take care of the small numbers, pay your rent, then the big deals, if they're going to come, will come. Why? Because people can trust you. Honestly, I've seen this work many times. And this is what I mean when I say if you're going to follow your dreams, also keep your feet on the ground. Build a solid track record. Don't just build castles in the sky. And here you can see why I say that for men to grow up, they need to grow down. Look at those words: track record, feet on the ground. It's about walking the plane of the earth, taking 2 steps forward, getting knocked back 3, then going again, but always on the ground. Thank you. If you found value from that, please remember to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.